Catalina. So here's a picture. This came out yesterday afternoon. This is from Mike Caspino. We've heard of him before. No, the picture of the Miami player. There we go. Congratulations, Jaden Rashada. Mike Caspino of Forward Council is proud to represent, misspelled proud, Jaden, Forward Council.
Unless he's proud to do something.
It could be that as well. And multiple sources online, On3 Sports had the story, though, behind the scenes. So, pretty good player, Paul, obviously.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's the number 22 ranked player in the country. Right. And we were all this was the next big quarterback recruit to come off the board. Craig mentioned it last week after Arch Manning that this was probably the next big one to come off the board.
Well, On3 had this story, On3 NIL, their section, about did Florida fumble the ball? Without getting into all of that, Rashada has openly talked about his fondness to Miami coaches and all this. I love the opportunity there. Then his representative, allegedly, Caspino, said Florida's collective did not, in fact, go back to that. Please, I'm still reading it. Florida's collective didn't help the Gators' chance for during the run to get Rashada's commitment. Florida is the most dysfunctional collective of all of college football, he would say, and basically that was it. Now, to the next page as well. This is again on Rashada, the quarterback. This is from Gator NIL. This is from their collective. Recent comments by California lawyer Michael Caspino have been brought to our attention. Gator Collective has never had any communication with Caspino, Rashada, or any recruits. Rather, Gator Collective has refused to engage in any dialogue with Mr. Caspino on numerous occasions, as Gator Collective does not approve of his tactics and has no interest in engaging in activities which violate Florida law, NCAA interim policy, and may put the athlete's eligibility at risk. That Darren Heitner, we've had on before, NIL Collective runs it for Florida. He's an attorney, a sports law attorney like Dan Lust. What's going on here? Florida, he was kind of like acting like Florida didn't want to come to the table and talk with him about getting a commitment there. Instead, he went to Miami.
Well, it sounds to me like he's mad because they didn't want to play his game, so he called them disorganized. Now, if they're disorganized, I guess that remains to be seen. But just because they didn't want to, make a bid, so to speak, on one of his clients, doesn't mean they're necessarily disorganized. But it's a certain good way to throw mud at a program, especially when your client commits somewhere, across the state in a rival program.
I mean, it's pretty simple. Florida offered him a certain amount of money that's been put out there, and Miami offered him a certain amount of money that's been put out there. If you read all the story and conversation about this, and he'll argue that Miami was actually the lesser offer, and that's why it's kind of a thing just to begin with. And then you got, this guy coming in, this lawyer coming in talking about, details that I don't think he's really supposed to be talking about or things that he's not supposed to be really talking about. And, basically they're just talking about pay for play is really what it is. And he's, throwing Florida under the bus for their collective. And quite frankly, I mean, the details and all that, I don't even care. Here's the deal for me. I do not care how much these guys are making. If Jaden Rashada is making $50 million, that's cool. But I do not care about these lawyers. I don't care about these greasy NIL guys that are suddenly a part of this business. I don't care about any of that stuff. I really do not care. Like, Deshaun Watson signed his massive deal, and the interesting part about that was, yes, the huge amount of guaranteed money, but you off the top of your head tell me how much that was? You just know it's $200 million, right?
Yeah.
And it's whatever. But did we balk at that because of the amount of money, or is it the amount of money because of what Deshaun Watson's going through? It's the amount of money because of what Deshaun Watson's going through. If he had just signed that regularly with no off-the-field issues, would we have been like, really, other than like, wow, holy cow, that's a new record or whatever, would we have really said anything about it? Would we have cared that it was 200? No, we don't. So I don't care about an 18-year-old quarterback out of high school and how much money he's actually making. I really don't, and I think it's weird that there's so many people that seem to. Now, as far as like the story itself of what's involved, Miami and Florida and all that, like we need some insight into what exactly the issue is here. But as far as like the money figure and that back and forth, I'm really not going to be tracking this like with interest. Oh, that guy's getting $6 million. Wow, that's cool. I don't care about another man's money that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I don't either. Whether it was the Tennessee quarterback at whatever, to me, there's two people going back and forth. Now, the Florida Collective and Darren Heitner saying that did not happen, that they never spoke to him. Someone told On3 what happened, and then they reported it, which is their job. Now, also, Heitner is saying, here's one of the biggest problems that he had with this deal. I'm told Michael Caspino leaked this number to On3. Did he do so with his client's knowledge and consent? Did Caspino tell On3 that he entered into an NIL deal with John Ruiz at Miami, even though Ruiz denies speaking with Caspino about Rashada? If you're Caspino, why even tell On3 anything at all? And then, of course, Caspino's response is, I understand Florida Collective, Damage Control, they're one of the most inexperienced run by millennials, etc. But this is still one of those things that's got to pique the ears or perk the ears of somebody.
Well, if there was somebody that could do something about it, I know the NCAA.
Yeah, I know.
Normally you would say, oh, yeah, that's they better go listen to this. But considering that as long as they're it's not going to take much to get within the rules. Now, the collective saying that some of the things he did violate Florida law, because I'm sure there's specific language in there about how you can come about these things or whatever. So maybe Michael Caspino isn't following that to the letter of the law. Now, he's based out of California, where Jaden Rashada is based out of. So, all the laws are different, which, means that there needs to be something overall that makes them the same, because it's all about fairness. When you come to this state, you can do this state, you can't do that. When it all comes to it, that's a separate issue for a separate day. But, to say that they're disorganized, yeah, you know what? I would venture to guess that most of the collectives are kind of a mess right now, because it's a new thing and nobody really knows what they're doing. Now, you could have Texas A&M, which essentially just dusted off the old playbook from the 80s and said, okay, now most of this stuff is legal now. Let's just do it again, that they got in trouble for back then. But, it's such untapped territory. I think we are going to see agents making these kind of remarks, like Scott Boras would, when, hey, why didn't your client re-sign with the
Orioles?
With the Orioles? Well, the Orioles came with this offer, and that was a joke, and so we went to the Dodgers. Bottom line.
Also, go ahead. You have one more note on it?
The basic deal here is we're not even talking about Rashada as a commit. We're talking about freaking Ruiz and Caspino, like the Goodfellas or something. What are we even talking about here? We're not even talking about this great quarterback that committed to Miami. The deal is this. They say Florida offered millions of dollars for him to come there. And then we're supposed to pat him on the back because Miami offered less millions of dollars to come there, like $1.5 million less or whatever the rumored reports are that everybody's saying, or, exaggerations or whatever. So good on Jaden Rashada for taking only $9.5 million versus the $11 million that they say that Florida actually offered, which Florida, I'm sure, would deny. But the basic gist of it is here's your auction block. Here's your NIL auction block. And this isn't pay for play. Sure. This isn't, at all what I think this was laid out to be, and yet here it is. We a few months into this thing, and Jaden Rashada's turning down reports, or Miami's lawyers are having to deny reports that there was a $9.5 million offer, but hey, Florida offered $11 million. I know that there's people out there that's interesting too. I do not care about Ruiz. I don't care about Caspino. I don't care to know these guys or their back. I don't care, man. Jaden Rashada, that's a great pickup for Miami. Yep. Great for him to get the bag and get millions of dollars. But as far as the dirty details, Edgar Thompson can lay those out, because to me it just sounds like just people pointing the finger at each other over how many millions they offer this high school recruit. That's the story as best as I can tell, because I don't know what I'm supposed to be upset about with this story, but there's a lot of people clanging.
I don't think anyone has to be upset about it, and I'm not asking anybody to be upset about it, but this is kind of where we are now.
Right.
And you're right, Miami got a hellacious quarterback.
Yeah, I'm seeing all this talk about it, and I'm trying to figure out, what's everybody, what's the basic gist of the conversation? Is it that guys are getting millions of dollars offered to them by schools?
No.
Which we knew was going to happen anyways? Is that what we're supposed to be surprised about? Are we supposed to be surprised that Ruiz or Caspino or whoever these dudes are maybe being shady? Are we surprised by that?
Nope.
No. Are we surprised that a quarterback's making close to $10 million, even though, one of the parties involved in this also was Tennessee's not offering $8.5 million for Iamaleava. Remember when that was a big joke, and now here we are, a month and a half later, and we're talking even bigger figures than that. So you're going to tell me that story was just totally bogus? Like, that's what I'm saying is, I saw this thing about this last night, and I'm like, okay, so what am I supposed to be irked about? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh, and you know what? To me, the story is that no one can do anything about it.
Right.
To me, the story is that the kid committed to Miami, but you have egos and these companies that are basically, because no one before NIL started decided to have any kind of regulations with it. And so we're going to see more.
Now we
of
have
this.
to know Ruiz and Caspino and these guys.
Eichner.
No thanks.
Did you also do this so that I have to take Florida's side on an issue here?
No, I didn't.
Because here's the thing. Michael Caspino is going to get a bunch of guys because he's got a great racket going where, if you're a player like Jaden Rashada that can get all this NIL money, what he does is negotiate your deal for you and then sends the bill to the collective. So it costs you nothing in agents fees, nothing. You're better off than if you're a pro quarterback, because then you've got to pay your agent whatever his percentage split is out of your cut. No, it's just added on to it. So he's trying to get clients, and it is surprising to me though that he would burn a bridge like the University of Florida, which has a ton of money, but hasn't.
Apparently $11 million for a quarterback.
Yeah, they have
allegedly.
Allegedly.
They have a ton of money at Florida now. What they've fallen behind, like a lot of schools have, in kind of, assuming they could do it the way that they did it in the 90s and do things. And so their facilities are behind and those things are different. But now that you've got all these people, doubling down in the arms race, I don't think it's probably wise to spite a client or a potential client that could have millions of dollars for you for the next guy, not just Jaden Rashada, because right now you say they're disorganized,
All right. That